So Maharaj will come out soon and he will speak. So I'm going to just speak a little bit from the Bhagavad Gita just while we're waiting for Maharaj and Krishna. They will come out soon, and Krishna will be placed with Gauranatai, Srila Prabhupada, Govardhan Shila on the altar here. We will have an arati and make an offering. But in the meantime, let us just meditate a little bit on Krishna. What is the spiritual vision of what is happening here tonight? It's always very nice to have the same vision that Krishna has. So Krishna is saying that something is happening here tonight. So it's good for us to see the same way that Krishna is speaking. So the same way that Krishna is thinking. So I'm going to read some verses from the Gita. This is from the 9th chapter, text number 27 and 28. Yat karosi yarashnasi yaschohoshi didasi yat tapasyasi kunteya tat kurusva marapanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer or give away, and whatever austerities you perform, do that, O son of Kunti, as an offering to me. So this chapter is called the most confidential knowledge. So Krishna is speaking the very intimate, confidential, the highest knowledge to Arjuna. So Srila Prabhupada explains this verse. Thus it is the duty of everyone to mould his life in such a way that he will not forget Krishna in any circumstance. Everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together. And Krishna recommends herein that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live. Therefore, he should accept the remnants of foodstuffs offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious, ritualistic ceremony. Therefore, Krishna recommends, do it for me. This is called archana. Everyone has a tendency to give something in charity. Krishna says, give it to me. And this means that all surplus money accumulated should be utilized in furthering the Krishna consciousness movement. Nowadays, people are very much inclined to the meditational process, which is not practical in this age. But if anyone practices meditating on Krishna 24 hours a day by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra round his beads, he is surely the greatest meditator and the greatest yogi, as substantiated by the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Shubha Shubha Palerevam Mokshase Karma Bandhanai Sanyasa Yoga Yuktatma Vimukto Mam Upashasi. In this way, you'll be freed from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. With your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. So, Krishna is saying that actually Krishna is not asking us to do anything which we're not already doing. Sometimes, people say that Krishna is asking too much. But actually, Krishna is saying we're already doing so many things, but as we're doing different things, we're getting a karmic reaction. So in this world, we can see the result of the karmic reaction to our activities. So, if you look at the planet Earth at the moment, there'll be minimum something like 80 million people who are experiencing very, very severe karmic reaction for the work that they're doing in this world. So, some people in this world have built nice houses, just like here, we have a house here. There are many people in this world, and they built a house just like this, and then but the reaction to how they've worked in this world to get their home meant that the house within a short time had just been blown away, smashed to pieces. So there's a way of working in which our house will not be smashed to pieces. So Krishna is saying everyone is already doing that. Everyone is, as family people, everyone is making some shelter, a place for their family. No one wants their home or their whole society or their civilization or their country to be just put into ruins. But if one doesn't know the art of work, then there will be a material reaction, and especially in Kali Yuga, the very, very severe karmic reaction. So Krishna is saying that everyone is doing some work to make a home, to make a family. So he's not asking anyone to stop that, but he's giving good advice that, as Prabhupada used to say, the art is how to catch the fish and not get wet. It sounds funny, but one time I was when I lived in New Zealand for 10 years, I was sitting with my daughters who were very young, ranging from teenagers down to 6 or 7, and we were watching some fishermen on the rocks. And I said to my daughters, those fishermen are in great danger because they do not know the art. That rock there is very dangerous where they're standing. Big waves come off that ocean. This is Miriwai Beach, a very infamous beach. Sometimes in Miriwai Beach, the waves would literally come up right over the sand dunes. The entire beach, thousands of people would run for their lives. So just sometimes, and then the wave would go back, and everyone just go back. Little babies, mothers, like that. Very dangerous beach. So I said to my daughters, they're fishing, but they're in great danger. And while I was saying that, a wave come in, knocked them off the rock, and they drowned and died in front of us. Just like that quick. So, when we say the art is to catch the fish and not get wet, the art is to live in this world, make the home, make the family, but not get the karmic reaction. That is the art. So Krishna is saying, he says, if you do your work for me, then you do not get that karmic reaction. See, in the next verse after this, he says, in this way you'll be free from bondage to work and its auspicious and inauspicious results. So even Krishna is suggesting, become free from even the auspicious results of work. Good karma. Become free from good karma. Because good karma means, quite often when I do housewarmings, I say this to people and watch their eyes light up. I say, you have, especially good Hindu families, very pious, doing their dharma. I say, you have done very well, you've done your duty, you've created this nice home for your family, and for that you'll be forced to take birth again. And they're like, see? So by doing their duty, looking after the family, you must take birth again. Next life, yes, do your duty, another birth. Maybe so many births. You know, so much duty, many, many births. So Krishna is saying, the auspicious results, you don't want that either. Because that'll... So if we become free from the auspicious and inauspicious results, means that we become liberated and go to Krishna. So Krishna is saying, as Prabhupada mentions, paraphrases, everyone has to work for maintenance of his body and soul together, and Krishna recommends that one should work for him. Everyone has to eat something to live, therefore he should accept the remnants of foodstuff offered to Krishna. Any civilized man has to perform some religious, ritualistic ceremonies, therefore Krishna recommends, do it for me. This is called Archana. So tonight we have performed some activities of Archana or deity worship. So in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna describes that when he appears in this world, in what appears to be a material form, such as his human-like form that he walks around in Vrindavan, or his deity form appears to be material, people deride him that this is something material, that therefore he cannot be God. But Krishna explains that if someone understands that although his form is very similar to the ordinary forms in this world, but all the scriptures say that that form he has is completely spiritual, and when Krishna appears in this world, the activities he performs shows that the form that he walks around in and speaks the Gita in, and the form he assumes as the Archa-Vigraha, the worshipable deity that comes into the home, they are completely transcendental. The deity form is transcendental. We see that those who have faith in the form of the deity and understand that that is non-different from Krishna, they become free from karmic reactions. They become free from karma. The result of becoming free from karma is that one's material consciousness, material activities, and the results of one's activities all finish. And by worshipping the deity, we see that people very, very quickly come to understand that they are Brahman, or a spirit soul, the eternal servant of the Supreme Lord, part and parcel of the energy of the Lord. And instead of engaging in the service of the body, they lose all interest in that, and they act with pure love and pure devotion for the Supreme. So this is very unusual, because in this world, people are so crazy, especially in Kali Yuga, they're so crazy to serve the body and the mind that there's no evil that they will not do anymore. And people will, kill each other. They will go to war in an instant. They will steal. They will rob the grandmother. I was saying, someone came to the temple the other day and they put their bags down. I said, you must understand that in Kali Yuga, the people who are the most trusting the most innocent are the first people who will be robbed. So, you know, the best in Kali Yuga, you will rob the priest, rob the mother, rob the child, rob someone in a wheelchair. You know, there is nothing that people will not do. They're the first one. If they're vulnerable, if they're weak, then they'll be robbed, they'll be bashed like that. So, you know, you cannot, there's the different circumstances. But, you know, in this day and age, for some 2 minutes of immediate pleasure, people will do anything. They will risk 20 years in jail. They will risk you know, it doesn't matter whether, you know, president of a country or what have you. They cannot stop the activity of acting for sense gratification, even for 2 minutes pleasure, and they will take the greatest risk and lose everything. And this is happening all over the world. Now, when you see amongst millions and millions of people that, you know, there's no thought process in Kali Yuga. If I can enjoy my senses for a few seconds, I will do it no matter what the consequences. If someone is in the poorest part of the world, they are starving to death, the wife is starving, there are 10 children starving, they will have sex life for another child. Not for another child, for the 2 minutes of pleasure. There's nothing that will stop it. There's no food, there's no water, there's untold suffering, but for 2 seconds of pleasure, they have the sex life, another child, then that will cause so much problem, opportunity comes again. There is no stop valve. There are millions of people all over the world. Yet, we see that people, they come and they offer worship to the deities, and they lose that interest. It's very, very, you know, very unusual. They just offer some flowers, they have some prasadam, they sit and they chant. Next thing you know, they're losing their interest. So this is very miraculous. You know, Srila Prabhupada used to, you know, people would ask, you know, about the miracles, or they would say, "Oh, this yogi does these miracles, this one, and what is your miracle?" And Prabhupada would, you know, these follows, these are the miracle. No intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex, no meat eating. And how is that? They're chanting Hare Krishna and worshipping the deity. So that deity form that they're worshipping, there is spiritual potency there. Otherwise, how is that happening? So that is called archana. Now, archana means just like tonight, we, you know, here we're performing a, you know, it's a welcoming. I very rarely, I can't remember if I've ever done an installation. I don't. Generally, as far as I understand, you know, people have to be, you know, initiated brahmanas for you to actually do a proper installation. But generally, you know, within the, you know, Indian community especially, you know, within your families you've been worshipping deities for hundreds of years, you know, your mother, your grandmother, your grandparents, like that. You already have deities, and it's very natural for you to have deities. It'd be foolish for anyone to say, "Oh, you cannot have deities." You've been doing it for thousands of years. But sometimes when you get a new altar, you get a new home. So this is like a special first worship. Not exactly an installation, but a special first worship to make the Lord, you know, to impress upon the hearts of the household couple here, the family. You take it seriously. We're all taking it seriously. We're doing something very wonderful here. So, you know, you take it seriously. So we're helping them to impress upon their hearts. And here is Krishna. He's not an ordinary statue. So we do something special, and then they carry this impression for the rest of their life. And so that's very helpful. It's like when people get married. You know, if you just said hold hands and exchange rings, okay, marriage done, see ya. They walk away, first argument, oh look, it wasn't much of a ceremony anyway, I'm leaving. You know, you spend thousands of dollars, you do some big thing, you got the mandap and flowers and so many drums and things are going off. And I think, yes, how could we, how could we go back on that glorious day of our, it stamps a sacred impression upon the hearts. This is something special. Take it seriously. Everyone you love is here to witness these vows. So, it's very important to perform these ceremonies to get that nice impression. So it's a welcoming, not exactly an installation. Some people say that, but that's not exactly what we're doing. But Archana, of course, is what is performed by initiated Brahmanas, generally. So, but in the home there are preliminary activities where devotees, as we said, especially amongst the Hindu community, they have deities. Gradually, by getting trained up in a temple, then, their ability to worship the deities at home becomes, very good, very pakka. Still, within the home worship is always very simple, because we're a preaching movement. So we do something very big. I strongly recommend to devotees not to do anything too elaborate in their home. We have big temples in Melbourne, probably others coming soon. But, for preaching, we support those big centres because it's very valuable for helping other people. So, we support the deities there especially, as that's very important as a preaching movement. And that means the worship that we do at home is a little more simple. So we have time to support the big temples, which are big preaching centres. Also, because this family, it's an important part of deity worship not to start anything that then you later reduce. So better off just keep things very simple so that you just always maintain something simple. One of the main things that we do in deity worship is our activities of chanting Hare Krishna, if we can chant 16 rounds every day, and preaching, helping other people to appreciate the deity and the holy name. Prabhupada, when he mentioned about Padasavana, Padasavana is, we have Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasavanam, Archanam. Padasavanam is a very, very advanced stage of worship where a person, they've done hearing, Shravanam, they've done Kirtanam without offence, purely, very nice chanting, and therefore their ability to remember Krishna always and never forget him is fixed up. Literally they're in samadhi. Those persons can do Padasavanam, which means they never forget the lotus feet of the Lord for a moment. And they worship the lotus feet of the Lord in different ways. One of the ways they worship the lotus feet of the Lord is to do archanam, such as what we've done here. With archana means you're offering specific items in a regulated way, in a particular order, by the rules and regulations. But also part of the Padasavanam is everything else they do to serve the temple. So Srila Prabhupada, in one sense, every devotee does Padasavanam in a sense that they're all serving the temple, and that's all Padasavanam. Padasavanam not only includes archanam, but it also includes what you offer to the Lord, which is nice for the circumstances. So here we see we've got some nice windows here. Padasavanam would mean that on a sunny morning you would come in and open the curtains and let the Lord enjoy the sunshine. You see, so it's not a a regulative thing. In the winter, that may not be there. So as circumstances, different fruits come available in summer and winter, and you would offer them. So mangoes, you would offer them. Sometimes on a beautiful day, they may take the Lord on procession. So Padasavana means all the activities we do for the deities, everything we do during the course of our day, including serving Vaishnavas, that's also Padasavana, because the Vaishnavas are situated at the lotus feet of the Lord. So serving the Vaishnavas is serving the lotus feet of the Lord. The Lord's lotus feet is also covered with tulsi, so serving tulasi is also part of Padasavana. The Lord walks in the holy dhams. Serving the holy dham is part of Padasavana, worshipping the Dāsa lotus feet. And the Lord, His lotus feet, touches the sacred rivers, and worshipping those sacred rivers is part of Padasavana. And all the work, building temples, this home is now a temple. So Prabhupada considered everything, all the services that one does for the temple, either the temple such as Melbourne Temple, or the home which becomes a temple, that is all part of activities to help us to utilize all of our senses, all of our resources, and all of our friends, our property, our intelligence. We can use everything. Padasavana means everything that we have at our disposal we can use in the service of the Lord in the course of the day. So and it includes some activities of archana. So the idea is that in the course of performing these activities in relationship to the deity, it helps us in a regulative way to always remember the Supreme Lord. Of all the rules and regulations in the scriptures, all the rules and regulations are meant to help us to always remember the Supreme Lord. And if we can remember the lotus feet of the Lord and never forget Him, then we have, that person is having fixed their mind on the lotus feet of the Lord permanently, that person becomes eligible to go back to the spiritual world. Like that. If at the time we leave this world, our mind is not fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord, we will come back again. So everything that we do in this life is literally, so all the worship we do, the abhishek we've done tonight, the kirtan, the offering of foodstuffs, every single thing is to help us to remember Krishna. And by that remembrance, everything is achieved. All benedictions. Krishna describes many times in the Gita, at the end of this chapter, he gives Arjuna the most confidential information. He says, Manmana bhava mad bhaktyo majjajimam namaskuru mama vaishasi yuktvevam atmanam matparayanaha. Engage your mind always in thinking of me. So again, Krishna says to Arjuna, this is, if you want to follow my instructions, what is the thing I want you to do above everything else? I want you to just think of me, always. So everything that we do helps us to follow that one instruction, that we're always Krishna conscious. In a devoted way, in a nice way. So Krishna says, become my devotee. Think of me in a favourable way, in a friendly way. Remember that I'm the Supreme Personality of Godhead, therefore offer your respect and worship to me, like that. So, by this, and then, just read this last verse again. So therefore Krishna says, in this way you'll be free from bondage to work and its inauspicious and auspicious results with your mind fixed on me in this principle of renunciation, you will be liberated and come to me. Now the other thing here that Krishna is describing is that this is the perfection of renunciation. So he is saying to Arjuna, there's no need for you to give up your family. There's no need for you to give up your home. There's no need for you to give up your work. There's no need to, give up any of these things. Whatever you do naturally in this world, according to your, physical and mental, situation that is naturally there for all of us. So mothers love to look after their children. Fathers like to look after their children. Husband likes to look after his wife. Wife likes to look after the husband. Teachers like to teach. None of these things are stopped. So you see, in this way, this principle of Krishna consciousness can be applied all over the world. Because whatever people are doing, whatever they're doing the same thing in Russia, they're doing the same thing in China, they're doing here, we're in Derimut, and I'm sure if you go to Tarni, you'll find people also living in homes with their families. I'm sure they're eating things, and I'm sure they're going to work and doing so many things. And if you go to the other side of Melbourne, you'll find they're doing exactly the same. And if you go to Queensland, they're doing the same. If you go to New Zealand, if you go to North Korea, they're still doing the same thing, actually. The only difference is, if you put Krishna in the center, it makes everything come to the spiritual platform. It's very, very natural and very enjoyable, and it puts one is considered to be on the highest platform of sannyas, renunciation. It's such a simple process, and it has the process that the whole world, without leaving their position, they can attain the highest perfection of renunciation. They're just giving up the material world. Something that yogis struggle to do. You have yogis in the Himalayas, they spend lifetimes and lifetimes trying to become detached by Krishna consciousness. Put the deities in the home, chanting Hare Krishna. And, here everyone just better situated than the yogis. It's so simple, very simple. So such a wonderful application. People all over the world need to know this extremely powerful process, and so simple and so natural. You can apply it everywhere. And this is what the world needs. And wherever this culture, this spiritual culture is not there, then there is the karmic reactions, and especially in Kali Yuga, there is just suffering. Wherever they're not Krishna conscious, wherever they don't have faith in Krishna, one of his different forms, one of his different devotees. So, now, one way, Krishna says, all these things are meant to help us to think of him, but above all the things we do, the main thing is chanting Hare Krishna. So when we do the Abhishek, when we're mopping the floors, cleaning the toilet, driving to work, getting dressed, having a shower, Hare Krishna, we chant Hare Krishna. Because the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is above all the different processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Parisevanam, Archanam. Chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra must accompany all the other services that we do, and when that chanting is there, it really fixes the mind on Krishna. When the mind is fixed on Krishna, what we do is very spiritualized and very devotional. One time I asked my spiritual master, I said, sometimes I have so much work to do for my family. I have 5 children, one wife. And, you know, that there's some service I want to do, and I feel like I can't get to do these different services for Krishna. And he said, he didn't say that, he said, he didn't say that. He said, building up some suspense. He said, that is your service. I was thinking, oh, he's going to give me some way out here. No, that is your service. You're a grihastha, you're a householder. That is your devotional service. But what he added was really, I've never forgotten. He said, if you chant Hare Krishna nicely, if your sadhana is good, and you're studying the scriptures, you'll see everything connected to Krishna. In your home life, in your work, everything. But if you're not chanting Hare Krishna nicely, and reading Bhagavad Gita and studying the books, you'll not see the connection between what you're doing. You'll see it as mundane. Oh, this family life, this work, you know, if I could get released from this, then I could do some service. No, it's not like that. Actually, we chant Hare Krishna, we study, and then we think of Krishna, and we see Krishna is everywhere. He's all pervasive. He's there at every step. He's there at my work. He's there in my family. He's there in every room of the house. He's there in activity. So the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is very nicely, without offences, and looking after the devotees, treating the devotees very nicely, because the holy name likes that. If we look after the devotees nicely, above everything, the holy name, you know, will reveal the full potencies. We've got two classes going on. So, Hare Krishna. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, reading Srila Prabhupada's books, associating with devotees, and then everything we do, including our deity worship, becomes completely transcendental, and we're always thinking of Krishna, and there is no material effect to what we're doing, and we are making step by step. In one lifetime, it's possible to go back to the spiritual world. So, I might just ask if anyone has any questions or on any part of what we've spoken about, or any part of the program tonight.
Can you put more light on keeping Krishna in the center of our life?
Yeah, so Prabhu is asking just to speak a little bit more about putting Krishna in the center of our in our daily life. Yeah. Well, the main thing about putting Krishna in the center of our daily life is to think about him. What happens, of course, is in this world there are so many things that will take our mind, our senses. This world will take our mind away from Krishna within 2 seconds. But the main thing is to actually, practice thinking about Krishna, and to recognize when we're not thinking about Krishna. Oh, I was thinking about Krishna, all of a sudden I just wandered off. Gee, that was about 2 hours last time. Now I'm just sort of somewhere completely else. To think of Krishna throughout the whole course of the day. Of course that's love. That's when prema bhakti is there. Then one can always think of Krishna. You see, or sometimes we remember, those teenage years where, you feel like you're in love. And, the person, the object of one's love, because I'm giving a material example in once, the person can't think of them. You see, teenagers, they're like that. They get a crush on someone all day, doesn't matter what they're doing, or they're thinking of that other person. It doesn't stop for 2 seconds. It just doesn't stop. And within their mind they're thinking, when I do see that person again, they may say this and I may say that. And I will be wearing this and he will be wearing that, or she will be wearing that. And we may go here, and we may. And last time we met we did this and we did. It just doesn't stop. It's natural. They can be doing their schoolwork, they can be doing their homework, they can be cooking, they can be talking to you and not even thinking about you. Because they can be looking at you, having a full conversation, and they're just thinking about, the love of their life. So, Prabhupada mentions that, he gives the example that a woman, she has many different duties to do. But no matter how many different duties, no matter how hard she works, she always manages to keep her hair nice. That's what Prabhupada says. Let me see all the women. Oh, all of them have been doing so many things. Myself, sometimes I look in the mirror, my seek is up like this, it's like my daughter said, Dad, women always nicely dressed, hair done, any time of the day, no matter what they're doing. One time I turned up at the temple and I looked down, I still had my slippers on. Because, I just don't even think about that sort of thing. So, but that's because I was thinking of Krishna. I've got to get to the temple to do the deity worship. But anyway, so it's the same, with you see the mothers when they've got little babies. It doesn't matter what they're thinking in that baby. Is the baby sleeping? Baby hungry? Need changing? First baby maybe. The time the first baby you treat very carefully. After a few babies you throw them around like a sack of potatoes. But you get the point that by the chanting of the Hare Krishna, and as we hear about Krishna, you can't help but fall in love with Krishna. If you look at all our lives, we're very, very fortunate. And that's all Krishna. Krishna has brought us here together. If you go to all the different houses, there's a lot of lonely people. There's people who are with their relatives and they wish they weren't with their relatives. They're all fighting. Here, people are just, banging at the door to get in. Everyone happy, everyone liking each other. Something nice prasadam. Very optimistic future. Even in the bleak world that we have, so many people pessimistic. Everyone here optimistic. They know Krishna will protect them. They know that they're on their way back to the spiritual world. So many lifetimes we may have had to have gone. So much karma, so much reaction, all gone. Krishna fixed all our problems like that. Very, very fortunate. Prabhupada says, you imagine you got a friend like that. The friend comes up to you and says, you have so many problems, that's okay. I will fix, don't worry about any of your problems. I will take care of all your problems. That's the friend. You can't help but, we don't have a lot of other friends like that. Our friends are, I'll look after you, and then they create a problem for us. Not the devotees. But, you can't help but fall in love with a person like that, a friend like that. Very dear. And then you think, who am I that Krishna is so kind to me? That makes it even more remarkable. It's when someone who is, sometimes when there's someone very, very important and they enter the room, you think, oh, they're not going to talk to me, they're not going to come up to me. And if they do, they sort of somehow, they see, oh, there's that devotee up in the corner up there. I remember one time I was sitting. I walked into the room, there was a big congregation of devotees, and I was trying to practice a little bit of humility, and I sort of walked in the room. I tried not to be seen. I sat right up in the back corner so no one would see me, and my spiritual master said, Ganga, come up here and sit next to me. Because I'll never forget that. But so when you hear about Krishna, more and more, you cannot help but be friendly and fall in love with him. So always think of Krishna, and the more you think about Krishna, the more you'll know about Krishna, and the more he reveals himself. Because if we think of Krishna, he will think of us. The deity, just like, one of my, I've mentioned this dream before, but one time, because I really enjoy doing these ceremonies, because it's very nice, you get the association of the devotees, and they're very intimate. The home programs in people's homes, there's something very confidential about them. I don't find them less than at the temple. I'm not saying they're more, but they're very, very sweet and confidential, because the deity just makes themselves available to everyone, a little bit more liberally. And one time I had this dream, well, actually before I had the dream, a devotee said to me, "Oh, Ganga, can you do the Abhishek for such and such a family?" And I said, "Oh, I'd love to." And they said, "It's on this date." And I thought, I can't do it on that date. But I can do it on such and such a date, which is a public holiday. Can we do it then? "Oh, that's all right, we'll get someone else." Just like that. I thought, well, I've been dropped. It's like, we'll just get someone else. You're sort of dispensable. You don't really have a relationship with the deity or with us or anything. We'll just get someone else. I really felt like, gee, you really sort of, nothing. Anyway, I had this dream, it was either that night or that I was going to a program, and as I was crossing the park to the people's homes, on a pedestal was Gaur Nitai. And all the devotees were walking past to the house. And I'm thinking, but what about Gaur Nitai? They're just in the middle of the park on a pedestal. It's like no one's taken the deity. So I thought, okay, I'll pick them up. So I picked them up. I had one in one arm, one in the other arm. And as I was walking with the deities, they put their arms around my neck and started sort of embracing me. And then they both started laughing and joking in my ear. And then I took them to the place and I put them on the altar and we did the Abhishek. And then I woke up and I thought, Gaur Nitai had taken me to that Abhishek. I am going to that Abhishek. So what actually happened was that none of the devotees could make it on the day that they said they were going to do the Abhishek, and therefore they had to do it on the public holiday, and the people that they had asked to do the ceremony also couldn't do it, and that meant that I got to do the Abhishek. But I knew when I woke up that Gaur Nitai was saying, "That's all right, Ganga, we'll take you to the Abhishek." And that. So, there's they interact. If you think of the deities, if you have a personal relationship with the deities, they'll treat you in a personal way. If you think of them sincerely, with feeling, they'll think of you with feeling. And as we've made so many arrangements for the deities here tonight, they'll make so many arrangements for you, for us. So the main thing of putting the deities in the center of our lives is to practice thinking of them. Not to just do things mechanically. And the way to... one can remember the Lord, one can always think of the Lord if one is properly and nicely and sufficiently doing Shravanam, Kirtanam. if we hear nicely from devotees and chant Hare Krishna nicely, you'll be able to think of Krishna all the time. That's the secret to thinking of Krishna. And if you think of Krishna, he will always be there in the center. But without the hearing and the nice chanting, the ability to think of Krishna will be very minimal. So the secret is nice hearing, nice chanting, especially the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, 16 good rounds, and then that person, you'll be able to think of Krishna very, very easily, all the time. And as you think of Krishna, he will think of you, and that loving relationship makes it so sweet that you don't want to think of anything else. Yeah. That is the process. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Padasevanam. And when Prabhupada mentions that in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, verses 23-24, Prahlad Maharaj saying Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Vishnu Smaranam. He says they're consecutive. One who does not hear nicely, they will not be able to understand any of the other processes or how to do them nicely. But one who hears nicely, they'll be able to chant nicely. One who hears and chants nicely, they can always think of the Lord, remember Him. And one who does that, they can do Padasevanam, Archanam, like that. They're successive. So the Shravanam, Kirtanam, that's the secret to Smaranam. And when Smaranam is there, Krishna is in the center of everything.
Normally we offer bhoga 4 times a day. When we go temple, we can't do it. So in that case, I feel very bad, because we eating there and my Lord is not eating at home. So how to take this?
Yeah, well, it is the same person. Krishna can accept the worship, just like when we worship the deities in the temple, there are some things we can't do for the deities, so we do to the shalagram. So every morning in the temple, they do the abhishek for the shalagram, not for the big deities. Big deity we do some on festivals, otherwise every morning, because it's difficult. But the shalagram, or sometimes a small deity, accepts the worship on behalf of the other deities. So, sometimes that principle is there, but also it's good to keep the regular worship at home simple, because we don't want to introduce something in our worship that may not be possible to maintain. It's good to keep it, simple. So, we may have the understanding that, once a day we may do one official offering, and then, then your family may eat somewhere else at another devotee's home in the evening. So what will you do? But there is that one offering at home generally. Then at the other person's home, naturally there'll be an offering. So, but if you're saying offer to the deity something to eat 4 times a day, we may introduce something that's not practical for us to follow. Deity worship is supposed to enhance our ability to chant 16 rounds and preach, not get in the way of it. Our deity worship should be in that principle that we're doing deity worship and it's not too much, and it allows me sufficient time to chant 16 rounds to preach, associate with devotees, look after my family, do my work. Not sort of I introduce something in deity worship that throws everything out of whack. Cannot chant, cannot preach, cannot go to the temple like that. I have seen that happen. There was a devotee I saw who became more and more elaborate in his deity worship. And I actually, asked him, you're better off not to do that. And, you're teaching something to people who are coming to your home that you probably shouldn't encourage them to do, We're better to encourage people to, the main thing is chanting 16 rounds, so if they're, the deities that they have in their home, helps them in their chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, because Prabhupada says, he says, we're very restless, so it's very difficult for us to always be thinking of Krishna and always be chanting. But actually we should be chanting 24 hours a day and always think of Krishna. But we're too restless. So he says, there are so many activities, so you're not restless. So Archanam, Sevanam, serving the temple, they help us if we're a bit restless. But the goal of them is that we can always be chanting and thinking of Krishna. Yeah? Okay, yeah, definitely. So, so that, the goal of having deities in the home is to, means where there's a little bit of restlessness, where we can't just be thinking of Krishna, our mind and senses may be drawn to some other things. The deity worship helps us to bring it back to Krishna, because the deity becomes the center. And it brings us back, we're not too restless to chant 16 rounds and to that. That's the goal of it. It's that balance. It's not meant to overtake it. So the best thing is keep the deity worship very simple, so that it helps thinking of Krishna and chanting Hare Krishna and preaching. The holy name, that is the main deity. Harinam, that is the principal form of Krishna that we worship. Above temple worship, the Sankirtan is they're absolute. None should be minimized. But if we have to give more favor to one, we would give more favor to serving the holy name. If we had to, favor one another. Yeah. Very nice questions. So, in about a couple of minutes, thank you so much for hearing very nicely. Actually, in 2 seconds, Maharaj is coming. So let's welcome the Maharaj and Krishna and Sushi Gauratai and Govardhan Sila. Hare Krishna. Jai.